This video is brought to you by Squarespace. From websites and online stores to marketing tools and analytics, Squarespace is the all-in-one platform to build a beautiful online presence and run your business. Welcome to the Car Guys and welcome to Car Guys HQ. This week's episode is all about nostalgia and we're going to go through the complete list of every single car that I have ever owned. It's an exhaustive list. There's going to be lots that you want to snigger about. There's going to be lots of dodgy choices in there, but you will at least get the complete picture. Every single car that I have ever owned. Let's do this. Well, since we're such good friends and since we've now just hit 50,000 subscribers on the channel, I thought now was the time to bring you right up to date and go through every car I ever had. Jason and I have been meaning to do this sort of episode for a long time, and to be honest, we kind of hoped that we would be able to intersperse the list with drives in some of the cars. However, we've not really been able to find any of the cars. So if you have a pristine MG Metro or a pristine, if it even exists, Talbot Matra Rancho, which is Jason's first car, please get in touch. We would love to drive those cars, relive the memories, rekindle those feelings. It's something we'd really love to do, but so far we've not been able to hook it up. There are 44 cars on my list, and you'll see as we go through them all how it starts off in very humble beginnings and then gradually chips its way, getting slightly better, gradually building up, and then it gets to a point where I don't have to actually sell one of the cars to buy the next one, and so the collection, as you see it here, starts to accumulate over a period of nearly 30 years. And that's the big difference with the Car Guys. We are old, so we've been doing this a long time, and we gradually built up our collections since the early 90s. So get ready for the first of my 44 cars. Are you ready? The first car that I ever bought, no laughing please, MG Metro. All right. This is what it looked like. I think you'll agree, horrendous. But it did teach me a lot about cars, taught me a lot about how to fix old cars, taught me how to change wheels quickly. In retrospect, it was a horrendous choice. I mean, let's face it, zero reliability, reputation. It was essentially the hot Metro. I mean, how cool does that sound? I was influenced by my father, who had had one of them in the past, knew how to repair them, and therefore said, "Go on, son." He didn't speak like that. "Go on, son, I can help you fix it, no problem whatsoever." He wasn't Ray Winston. It was red, it had the pepper pot wheels, it used to leak hydrogas suspension fluid all the time because of course it was just very thin pipes, and as you'd go around corners and they would gradually corrode, they would split, so the car would start to lean quite a bit. And to make matters worse, I bought it from a farmer, so it had obviously been abused and it probably pulled hay bale trailers all around Wiltshire. It therefore stank of horse shit. It used to blow the distributor cap clean off. It used to frequently go wrong. It would also have a very strange sticky ignition key that if you didn't get it exactly right, it just wouldn't take the steering lock off. So you'd be stuck there desperately trying to get the secret combination. However, it was my first car and therefore I've got a bit of a soft spot for it. Eventually I gave the car to my brother, who then sold the car, and I'm reliably informed that a week after it was bought, someone wrapped it around a lamppost and snapped it in half. So that particular car is no more. Then I got a Ford Escort 1.4, this one. That was actually given to me by a family friend. Compared to the MG Metro, it was like a spaceship. All the controls were beautiful and tactile, didn't feel like they were going to break instantly. It worked, it was reliable. You just turned the key and it started. You know, revelations like that after the Metro just blew my mind. I had that car when I first started my career in journalism. It was burgundy, it was the 1.4, so it was a bit peppier, but again, very fond memories of that. I then traded it in against my next car, a bright red 3-door Vauxhall Astra. That's right folks, I jumped into the big time. Hopefully I've got a picture of it. If not, this is what one looks like. It was pretty much just a base model, but to me it was incredible. It had a light grey interior, spacious, really nice notchy gear knob, good lusty power, lots of glass, so it was good visibility, and it just had that lovely swoopy shape. Obviously I always wanted the GTE, and a neighbour of mine had that sort of dark purple GTE, the one with the digital dash. I had to make do with the standard car, but it was mine. It was an F reg, so it was quite new. I think I bought it in about 1991. It was an 89 reg, so it's almost new. And as if I didn't have enough punishment, then I went out and bought a 5-door Vauxhall Astra, again in red. So it was the SX, which was the very slightly breathed upon version, but still pretty rubbish. Astras of that shape used to be everywhere. Now, never see them. Absolutely disappeared. Car scrappage schemes, obviously. I do get a warm feeling every time I see them, which is very rarely. Then of course there was my beloved MR2. Dark blue, H reg, it was the 2 litre. That was as good as a Ferrari to me at that time. I absolutely loved that car. Just revved and revved and revved. Very tricky on the limit, especially in the wet. Pop-up headlights as well. I traded my MR2 in for, wait for it, a Jeep Grand Cherokee. Why on earth did I buy a Jeep Grand Cherokee? Well, True Lies had just come out, and I was suddenly in the mood for a big black sort of SUV type thing, like an FBI vehicle. It was the 4 litre, it had chrome, inside it had faux wood, automatic of course. There was just something about wafting along at a higher level that I just loved. It had a big digital counter for the fuel economy, and if you really booted it, you could get the fuel economy down to 2 miles per gallon. It's a bit of an odd choice, but I have to say I did kind of love my Jeep Grand Cherokee. Car number 7 was my very first Porsche. It was a 993 Carrera, the standard car, 2-wheel drive. Standard Carrera was the one to have. Midnight blue, marble leather inside, manual car, just epic. That one really ignited my passion about cars. Everything about it felt special and historic. I remember driving it back. It was night time, it was cold. I think it was December. I bought it cannily in December. I mean, that is a stupendous car. It's one of those cars where overtakes went from being 1 or 2 cars to 5 cars in one go, and you just suddenly thought, yeah, that is why the 911 is so special. Probably out of all the cars I've sold, I think that could be the one that I regret the most now. I sold that car to a friend of mine in order to be able to afford to buy my next 911, which was a 996 GT3, and that was me gone then. In terms of Porsche, I was sold. Stick a fork in me, I'm done. That made me a 911 devotee completely. 993 into 996 GT3, wow, and the GT3 was just an astounding car. Basalt black, it was the Mark II, so it had the much bigger wing. We tested a red one on this channel and I sort of went all dewy-eyed back on nostalgia. I waited 9 months to get my GT3, and then within 3 weeks it was totaled by a drunk driver. So in between me getting my 996 GT3 and it being destroyed, I also got my beloved 355 Spider, which I've still got and is just over there. Also to give me a daily to drive whilst I was waiting that 9 months for the replacement GT3, I got my first BMW E38 750, and that's where my love affair with those cars began. Since then I've had 3 E38 750s, 1 an IL and 2 750i's. In terms of old smokers, there's very little that can beat a good old 750 BMW, especially that shape, which is, in my eyes, the best looking. So I've got 153 plate 996 GT3 and 154 plate 996 GT3. And I had to wait another 9 months for its replacement, but I basically bought the identical car again. So what do you think I replaced a 996 GT3 with? No, you're all wrong. It was a Maserati GranSport. Honestly, what was I thinking? The GranSport was a strange choice because I didn't know anything about them. I never had lusted after one at all. I wasn't really that fussed about Maserati. but I saw one and I just saw a bit of it through one of the windows, just one of the corners. And it absolutely seduced me. The GranSport basically had that lovely sort of birdcage type grille on the front. It had kind of like anthracite sort of dark grey wheels, very special to that car. Blue dials, familiar theme, but it was such a lovely shape and it just caught me completely by surprise. The downside was the gearbox, because it's paddle shift only, and every time you change gear in that car, it felt like you were slipping the clutch. It felt like it was costing you money. And it really is the Achilles heel. Everything else about the car is great. The Skyhook suspension, inside it had this weird technical cloth, which kind of worked, but it was a luxurious, brutal grand tourer. After a while, that sort of impending maintenance and that worry started to dominate it, so I had to get out of that. Number 13 on the list, Aston Martin V8 Vantage. The hardtop, manual, in the James Bond silver. It's still one of the prettiest cars ever made. Beautiful proportions, really nice, small, manoeuvrable car, ridiculous machine gun-like engine noise. Oh, what an incredible car that was. But ultimately, the V8 Vantage was traded in against a Porsche 911 997 Turbo S. Car number 14 was another BMW 750. This time a black car with tan interior. It was a 750, so the shorter wheelbase version. And I used that every day for probably the next 8 years. That one really cemented my love for the 750. It was a relatively low mileage car when I got it, and I think by the time I sold it, it had done just over 100,000 miles. Car number 15 was this. That's right, a Ferrari F40. Yes, I know. You're still sending me abusive messages even now because I've sold that car, but I did have it for more than 5 years. I had loads of fun with it. It is supremely gorgeous. Yes, of course I could buy another one. Yes, I'm a bit of an idiot for selling this one, but it had to be done for the reasons that you will find out on this channel about soon. Car number 16 is this, the Ferrari Challenge Stradale, 2003 car. It's in Argento Nürburgring silver with a factory stripe. It's right-hand drive. It's very rare. It's an incredible track focus machine, and I've still got it. And car number 17 is this, Lamborghini Gallardo 552 Valentino Balboni. Black, stripe, low, fast, rear wheel drive only, awesome. And as you can see, I've still got it. The 997 Turbo S was in GT silver, probably one of the most capable supercars that I've ever driven. Surgical in its precision, ludicrously fast, four-wheel drive, and it was at that point before the 911 started to swelling. It was a great car, but after a while, it felt a bit too good. I needed something with a bit more passion, a bit more flair. And so the 997 had to go. Car number 19 is this beautiful short wheelbase green Land Rover Series 2A. It's a 1963 car. You can take the entire top off, fold down the windscreen and make it a proper chop top. It's a fantastic car, makes you feel like you're on a safari every single time you drive it. You've not really seen it on this channel, and you've certainly not seen us review it yet, but perhaps this will be the year. Complete impulse buy, I had to buy it. Do I drive it that much? No. Do I smile every time I do drive it? Yes. Around about the same time as I bought that Land Rover, I also bought a Jaguar XJ40. Do not ask me why. It was a 19,000 mile example, so a 1993 car on an L. It was a fantastic car, however, such a low mileage, it was criminal for me to think about putting loads of miles on it to driving it every day. Ferrari 458 Italia, triple layer white, brand new example that I bought in March 2015. I've now done 15,500 miles in that Ferrari, and it's one of the best cars that I've ever owned. And then in August 2015, I managed to secure a slot and buy a brand new Ferrari 458 Speciale Aperta. Now this is one of the greatest cars ever made, and I'll have no arguments about that. It is utterly beautiful. It is supremely fast, track focused, capable, wonderful noise, incredible handling, delicate steering. All of the superlatives that you can possibly think of can be applied to this car. This is certainly the best car that I've ever driven. It's an absolute keeper. I hope that I can keep this car until the day I die. And here it is, folks, car number 23, an original Honda NSX. 1991 in silver. It's a manual car, it's got a black roof, and again, this car is a real keeper. It's every bit as good as I thought it was going to be. It's a stunning, stunning drive. And that's why it's still here in the garage. And around about the same time, I bought my third BMW 750, which is also in silver. Looks exactly like the car in James Bond Tomorrow Never Dies. And that one is currently one of my dailies. Car number 25 is this 1995 Honda Prelude VTEC. Again, a car that I was searching for years. I finally found exactly the perfect example. I've loved owning it. Probably at the moment I'm thinking about selling it, or maybe giving it away to a CarGuys subscriber. And now with car number 26, we are pretty much bang up to date with the start of the CarGuys.tv. The very first car that kicked it all off for Jason and I was a 1995 Bentley Continental R. I bought this mistakenly at auction by raising my hand at an inappropriate moment, and this enormous wild berry coloured Leviathan had so many idiosyncratic features and was such an interesting drive. Jason and I had a fantastic drive in it, ripping the piss out of the car and just having great fun. It was the combination of driving, detail and humour that's formed what the CarGuys is today. Eventually though, it cost so much to fuel, it was so huge and a little bit embarrassing to drive, I had to sell it. And this is where it all starts to go a bit bonkers, because car number 27 is this McLaren 675 LT. Bought on a complete whim from Hampshire Classics. I fell in love with the colour, I fell in love with the green brake calipers and grey combination. It was a low mileage car. It's still one of the greatest McLarens ever made. It's a truly unique drive and also a fierce weapon on the track. There now follows a flurry of cars. Car number 28 is this Ferrari F12 TDF. Bought second hand at a ridiculously high premium. I've done 5,500 miles, including a big trip down to Italy. It's a ferocious limited edition Ferrari, and it's still here today. Car number 29 was a Lamborghini Huracan Performante in bright green Verdi Mantis. All the trimmings, all that forged carbon nonsense. There's a two-part review on the channel somewhere if you check it out. Without question, one of the fastest supercars that you can buy. For me, I just didn't gel with it though. So after only 6 months, I decided to chop it in and move on. And I've not owned another Lamborghini since. Cars 30 and 31, both Porsche 911s, both from the 80s, both inspired by my listening of the Spikes Car Radio podcast. So I ended up with an auction car Targa and also the car that Jason got, which was a 3.2 Carrera. Both very different to drive. I'm glad I own them, but it was for a relatively short period of time. And car number 32 was one I've been after for years. Back in the 90s, a magazine called Car, produced by EMAP, was in its heyday. I was reading it every single month, and one of the most memorable covers and stories was about the light car company Rocket, designed by Gordon Murray. Ever since then, I had a hankering for that car, and I've always wanted one. I found a really smart example at Duncan Hamilton, which was in bright orange, and I had to have it. I owned it for about a year, and then I realized that I just wasn't driving it enough. I couldn't really take it on track, so in the end I sold it to a very nice man in Los Angeles. Car number 33 is my beautiful Rolls-Royce Phantom Coupe. 2010 car, black piano wood, black leather. As soon as I saw this car at Romans International, I knew I had to have it. And although it took a further 6 months to persuade the buyer to sell it, at last it's mine. And it's one of the finest cars that I own. Every journey is an event. There is nothing more luxurious than a Rolls-Royce, and I'm really proud to own a Rolls-Royce as part of the collection. Cars 34 and 35 came on top of each other because they were challenge cars bought specifically for this channel. So car number 34 is a Volkswagen Phaeton, a car that I was always keen to drive ever since the Jeremy Clarkson feature on it in Top Gear, and I have to say it didn't disappoint. It was a phenomenal car. And then car number 35 was of course the ridiculously competent Audi RS6 Avant. Both cars have since left the garage and gone to new private owners, but I have to say I've got a soft spot for both of them, probably, if I'm being honest, more so the Phaeton than the RS6. And cars number 36 and 37 also came almost on top of each other and were both brand new. One was a 488 GTB Ferrari. That was a spectacular high-spec car that I bought and lost a fortune on, and has now been sold through Meridian to its new owner, who is a fan of the CarGuys. And the other was a new Porsche 911 Carrera T that ultimately I traded in against my current GT3 Touring. There was only one car was going to beat the T, and that was the Touring. So unfortunately the T had to go, and that one I do regret a lot. But also, again, the new owner is a CarGuys fan, so it's gone to a good home. And the Porsche love just keeps on coming, because cars number 38 and 39 is this 1989 930 and this 2018 GT3 Touring. Both the finest examples of their kind, both some of the finest 911s that you can buy with any money. The 911 Turbo here is a 5-speed manual car. It's very, very rare, and it's only done 30,000 miles. So it is a truly special 911. I bought it sight unseen at auction. It required a hell of a lot of work to get it back up to speed. Don't get me started. But now it is running as if it is brand new. And this GT3 Touring, the car I always wanted, I didn't get any love or allocation from Porsche itself. So again, I had to buy this from the first owner at a premium. But it has since given me 10,000 miles of sheer joy. This is one of the all-time greats. Then it was time for me to get that barn find Toyota MR2, which I rescued, got back running, and then sold it privately, so that's now gone to its new owner. Well, we're getting near the end now. Car number 41 is a Porsche Boxster S. This is the black car with the red roof that I really didn't like at all. I only ended up having it for about 6 months. The car itself was lovely, and dynamically it's obviously fantastic, but I just couldn't get past that engine. It was a means to an end, because it then got me into Porsche 718 Spider. Bought new, I will never get rid of this car. I'm aiming to turn it into a sort of 1950s Porsche kind of recreation, hence the numbers on the side. But once I've got the seats done, there'll be a full review of this car on this channel. Car number 43 is, of course, my magnificent Mercedes S600 Maybach, or Maybach, depending on how you'd like to pronounce it. This car I've only just bought. It is one of my dailies. I absolutely love it. And if you want to look like Russian mafia or an oligarch, this is the car. So that's it. That's all 43 cars that I have ever owned. What's that? I said 44? I said 44 at the start of the video? Ah yes. Car number 44, which I do own already, but I'm not going to reveal right now. Car number 44 is coming to this channel very soon. So there you go, that's every car that I have ever owned. What do you think? Some interesting choices there. Which ones are your favourites? Which ones did you really not like at all? Did you guess many of them? Are there some startling omissions that I should work on getting straight away? Let us know in the comments. I hope you enjoyed looking at all these different weird and wonderful vehicles. I'm sure there were some laughs, I'm sure there was some perplexed eye-raising a la Roger Moore style. Hopefully you enjoyed it. Please subscribe, leave comments and likes. You know that we read them all and we comment on many of them. Please also visit our Instagram page. Check out our merchandise, which can be purchased from our website, thecarguys.tv, or below this video in YouTube. There'll be another CarGuys episode along next week.